Warriors, what is going on? Here we are. It's the 20th of March. It's 2 o'clock. How are you today? I'm so happy to be on 2 days in a row. Things have been so chaotic lately. Last month it was all the cancer treatments that I had to take the dog to. And now it's just regular crazy life. Oh, is my mic doing all right? Hold on. Let me see. Check, check. Hey, somebody just came in. Can you tell me if you can hear me? Um, and let me drink up some of my Java. Hopefully you can't hear me slurp. That's the worst, isn't it? I can't stand hearing myself or anybody else slurp. Thanks anyway. But I do need to guzzle real quick so I can move on to my second cup. And yes, it is a little bit late in the day to be drinking my coffee, but that's all right. And if you're able to say hello and let me know if you can hear me, that's great. If you can't or don't want to, that's fine too. And, I turn my lives on these days kind of before I'm ready so that it gives people a couple of minutes to come in before I start hitting my notebook and the things that I am here to talk with you about. So I just need to text one of my mods to let them know that I am on and see if they're busy. If they are, no problem. And if they're not, then great. So how is the sound? How is the lighting? It seems like the lighting has been really weird, but I always have to remember it's because it's daylight outside and it just does the strangest things. I've got my blackout curtain here, but there's like ambient light that comes through, and so it changes all the lighting. And I find that very annoying because you know me, I'm a control freak. I must have my lighting perfect. Must have everything perfect. No, I'm just kidding. I always say if you're shooting for perfection, don't start a YouTube channel because you'll never get anywhere with it because everything is so far from perfect all the time. So why don't I just start out by reading this article that I printed that is about the Tesla ecstasy. I only learned about Tesla ecstasy like the day before yesterday. And then I found this particular article after I did my live yesterday. So I'm just going to start reading. It's called Taste Like Tesla, How Tesla Ecstasy Pills Became the Hot Way to Get High. Early this summer, 20-year-old Jenny, a Los Angeles-based student, was getting ready for Coachella. She had the requisite cute hat, tasseled flip-flops, and of course, 2 orange Tesla ecstasy pills secreted away. Yes, secreted away in a hidden pocket. She went for Teslas because she'd heard that they were potent and make people feel good. Plus, she'd love to own a Tesla one day. Also on offer was green What's Up app pills and purple Tomorrowland pills. Never heard of any of these, but I'm an old lady these days. So when I was 18, E was new and I heard about it and I tried it once or twice. I'll be honest. I did. And after feeling like I might die, then I enjoyed it. But no, it wasn't my cup of tea. So anyway, that was back in the mid 80s. It might sound odd that Jenny can order Tesla branded ecstasy, but people in the know won't be surprised. After all, ecstasy pill designs have a long history of emulating cultural trends. Some of the earliest ecstasy pills on record are the Pink Panther 007 pills, both of which have the related logo stamped on them. Today's ecstasy users are predominantly European, as Molly is the club drug of choice for American ravers. However, Molly and ecstasy are actually the same thing. Ecstasy is pressed 3, 4, okay, it's words I can't pronounce, MDMA. So that's why it's called Molly is a MDMA powder. In the 2000s, American thought pills had become so adulterated with other rugs that Molly was marketed as a pure form. But anyone can adulterate powder. So in the USA, Molly is garbage, said Joseph Palomar, assistant professor at the Department of Population Health at New York University Langone Medical Center. Today, oh, hey, Pamela Wood. Oh, good. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. How are you today? And I don't recognize your name, but maybe it's just been a while. If you want to say if you're new or not, it's always nice to say hi. And like I said, I really appreciate you commenting on the sound. Thank you. So this is about the Tesla pills. So I did a live yesterday talking about a lot of things. It was about a 2-hour live, which is kind of long for me, especially late at night when my brain is melting. It wasn't that late, but my brain is just sharper. The earlier in the day I get on my live, the sharper I am. So I try, but I'm just happy to get on my live at all. Like I had so much going on yesterday. It was insane, but it was a good day. Anyway, back to the point with the Tesla Molly is that it's really potent, and there's often been speculation in the Kylie Rodney case that she may have simply overdosed and then it was all covered up. I know for a fact that a lot of crimes that involve rugs, the rugs get covered up because they say it's to protect the family and to protect like the victim, you know, their to protect them from shame and that kind of thing. But I believe that it's actually to prevent the prosecution of where the rugs came from. And when you go to where they came from, you have to move up the chain, the ladder, to get to your kingpin, so to speak, your top banana, your big dog, your card that tells or doesn't tell. And often those people are paying off law enforcement to turn a blind eye. So really, law enforcement is protecting themselves by protecting the victims and skipping over the fact or downplaying the fact that there was rugs involved. I'd say that most crimes, the rugs are the cause, and most crimes, rugs are not even mentioned. Or I don't know most, let's just say some. Okay. Try to be precise, try to not speak in hyperbole, but I'm going to do all my regular stuff real quick so I don't forget. Please hit that like button if you don't mind. And it looks like we've got 2 for 2 on the like, so thank you. Make sure you're still subscribed if you are subscribed, and if you're not, please consider doing so. It helps the channel to grow. Share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like it. If it turns out good, fingers crossed. Turn on your notification bell to ring, and everything I say is simply my opinion. Kelly Carson, clear as a wind chime. That's lovely. Nice to meet you. I don't recognize your name either, so that's awesome to have 2 newish folks, or maybe just shy folks that watch but don't comment. Either way, how are you? I'll do my little disclaimer. Everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation, open up a discussion, learn something, be educational. That's always my goal, my intention. And my videos are all made for YouTube, and it's an entertainment platform. So, you know, I started my channel 2.5 years ago with true crime, with the Kylie Rodney case. And it's kind of morphed into a few different things, still mostly true crime. And now I'd say mostly true crime. And I don't like the P word. Let's say government. All right, government. And, you know, ever since the election, basically, it was like the day before the election, I think, was the first time I really spoke about these things. And it feels to me like that's where my interest in justice is, telling the truth right now. I feel like there's so much artificial intelligence, there's so much fake news, and just trying to keep my own clarity and then trying to converse with people that want to talk about it. So I welcome other opinions. I just do not welcome trolls at all, and I don't welcome rudeness at all. So I like to be clear on that. No, ain't nobody got time for that, I like to say. So here I am. I know exactly where I left off. Today, tech brands are increasingly common in the world of illicit substances branding, with partygoers able to pick from TripAdvisor, Skype, and Netflix ecstasy pills. I had no idea. See, this would have been so bad for me when I was a teenager and I was into this kind of stuff. It would have been a disaster and probably deadly. Amongst others, in some ways, this tech, it skips over a part. Instead of the more traditional companies lured by the high salaries and staff perks, these new tech brands have become synonymous with cool and thus is now representative of quote unquote good time, which explains the growth in branded rugs. The fact that tech logos are trending is in the drug world is no surprise to Mitchell Gomez, executive director of Dance Safe, a nonprofit supporting health and safety in the dance community. The phenomena of pills and blotters, that's like hallucinogens, like LSD, for anyone who doesn't know what a blotter is, being made with corporate logos is one that dates back many, many years, he said via email. The modern phenomena is likely about marketing and recognition. People remember corporate logos, and it's a way to piggyback on their popularity, as well as an easy way to describe a particular press. Also a way to speak in code, because you could just say, hey, do you have any Teslas, instead of saying, hey, do you have Molly? So it's also possible that tech logos have become so widespread due to the distillers' dislike of retooling their pill presses. Take Mitsubishi, one of the most popular ecstasy pills of the 80s and 90s. For a while, it's all anyone could find, but that doesn't mean they were made at the same place. Perhaps the reason for the Mitsubishi's widespread use was that it was a reasonably easy shape to make. John Boy Davidson, a spokesperson from Ecstasy Pill Testing Database Pill Report, said, pill press dyes are almost as hard, if not harder, to come by on the black market as the very chemical precursors used to make the rugs. Pamela Wood says, returning, I've been watching since the early Kylie Rodney days. I just seldom comment. I can't do the yoga poses, so I skip those. Well, no problem at all. And thanks for letting me know. Yeah, I am just delighted. My yoga last night was rough because I had done about 5 hours of gardening during the day. So I was going to skip it, but I love it so much. So I did it anyway. And I could tell I was just off. I actually edited parts out. I'll be honest. There was one part where I literally fell asleep towards the end, and I edited that out. That was just too funny. Not because I wanted to not letting anyone know, obviously, because I'm telling you, but just because it's like dead air time. It was like 2 minutes. I was like literally snoozing. Hilarious. So I was relaxed. So that's good. Anyway, it's a good workout, and I always say just do what you can and do what you're comfortable with, and I'm kind of doing this with my head because every little thing helps. So just dropping your ear to your shoulder, you can do it on both sides, good to keep it even, and then also adding a little bit of pressure from your fingertips. It's one of my favorite yoga moves, but you don't have to do a whole yoga routine to do it. And it's very subtle and it's very effective. Anyway, back to this. And again, I know exactly where I left off. That's amazing. I'm usually utterly confused when I do that. So let's take a look at the emergence of some of these brands. Using Pill Report's data, it appears that Tesla pills first came onto the scene in 2015 and doubled in popularity the following year. Facebook pills have been around since 2014, Snapchat since 2015, and Apple Macintosh ecstasy pills emerged in the late 90s. Typically, these pills have consistently been popular over the year, much like the brand itself. However, pill poppers need to be careful about indiscriminately swallowing these brands. Scary. In the last year, drug safety sites have published bulletins warning users about ecstasy pills to watch out for. They issued an advisory for glow in the dark Tesla pills that had almost twice the amount of active MDMA in it. A novice user might take a whole pill instead of splitting it and accidentally overdose. Isn't that so scary? Here, it's the purity of the pill that's the problem. Then there were the dodgy pink MasterCard pills, which may have contributed to the death of a 17-year-old girl last year. And this was just written, well, I don't know exactly when it was written. I just printed it today, but it's a current article. Where was I? 17-year-old girl last year, and Australia had a spate of blue Snapchat pills which hospitalized some users. I reached out to Tesla, currently valued at about 48 billion. So it's whenever Tesla was valued at 48 billion, which is about 15 billion ago, I believe, maybe 16 billion ago, to request a comment about the misuse of their branding, but they declined to respond. But that doesn't mean they're happy about what's going on. All of this corporate IP is being stolen and appropriated on perhaps the most controversial product there is, but the corporations seldom do anything about it, says Davidson. One particularly odious corporation sent a threatening letter to our site demanding all logo images and text references to their brand be removed, Davidson said. He said that taking down those images could have catastrophic effect. People could miss out on potentially life-saving information. I did offer to substitute the words baby formula scandal coffee company, all words that are outside copyright, but would somehow still indicate which brand we talked about. Oddly enough, we never heard from them again. Ecstasy pills aren't the only rug to get branded. H baggies with artistic designs have been a thing for some time now, and LSD has a long history of being printed with hallucinogenic and pop culture images. Branding has always been important, said Palomar, explaining that when ecstasy first gained popularity, people would seek out certain types of brands as they'd have good associations with the experience. And yeah, you'd have to know like where it came from and who made it, because what if it was pure strychnine and then you just died instantly? Thousands upon thousands of logos have been used over the years, he said. I think it's highly related to pop culture. It's largely millennials using ecstasy, and they relate to Snapchat and other things. However, Palomar is troubled by how potent many of these pills are, pointing out that one Netflix pill is not like another. Ecstasy data lists one pill with 220 milligrams and the other with 270 milligrams. For reference, an average safe dose would be around 100 milligrams per person. I'm not sure how easy it is to cut these in half, he said. However, as much as Tesla and company might worry, he suggests that their day may be over soon. Kids want to keep doing new things all the time, he said. That's partly why new pills come around. Davidson agreed with Palomar's take on pill popularity. The appeal of high-tech companies who have already paid millions for the best graphic design available as the image they want to be associated with their product is a natural fit. You may not be able to afford an actual Tesla, but hey, why not have the pill with the logo and you'll feel just as good? Wild, huh? I believe the last time I commented was when I told you my toe injury story of decades ago after your injury. So yeah, my injury was like 14 months ago. So maybe it was around that long ago. Remind me what your toe injury was if you want to type it in, if you feel like it while I'm reading. It's taken 14 months for my toe to be 100%, and I'm not sure that it's 100%. It's super close, super duper close. And it might be as good as it gets. We'll see. I bet another year and it'll complete. Anyway, toes take a while, right? Because they're so far away from the heart. I'm very, very fortunate to have it. Appreciate your toes. They help a lot with everything. Okay. He explains that many of the pill branded images have been recycled over the years, pointing to pills featuring prints of witches and nerdy faces with glasses. Post The Boy Who Lived, these were suddenly being sold as Harry Potter pills. This leads to incredibly stupid stories in the media about rug dealers using these pill logos to market their wares to children, as if 90%, 95% of those books weren't being bought by adults. That is funny, isn't it? Before long, though, actual Harry Potter with lightning bolt logos did appear. What my research has taught me so far is that there is a historic appeal for branded ecstasy, in part because people like the aspirational companies and pop culture references. Well, and it just makes it easy to share with people, and then they can purchase the same thing if that's what you're into. And I really don't encourage this at all. I'm reading about it as cautionary. So, being an old fogey, I had no idea about Tesla ecstasy. And it surprises me because with the Kylie Rodney case, there was a lot of talk about Molly, and in that area especially, of Truckee. I've been looking back into the whole Truckee thing. In fact, I just rewatched some of Jägermeistro's high school graduation this morning, and I put a link to it in the description of yesterday's video if you want to see Jägermeistro graduating. And then Scammy chasing after him with her daisy in hand. And then her ex-boyfriend's daddy is right there, the Hamburglar's daddy in a purple shirt. So it helps be able to identify. And that's all like towards the very end of the 1 hour and 55-minute video. Let's see. I wrote down the timestamps and they're in the description too. But in case you're interested, in case you're like, what is she talking about? I never heard of this video. So Jägermeistro is at the 1 hour, 51-minute mark, where he's at the podium and accepting his graduation and thanking people that helped him. And then the 1 hour, 55-minute and 30-second mark is where Scammy's chasing after him. And then Hamburglar in the purple shirt is right there. And I think it's about an hour and 56 minutes long. So it's just the very last 5 minutes that are of interest. The rest of it is pretty dead unless I missed something. But I hadn't seen that in a couple of years. I'm trying to discern. Wait, where was I? Because I set something down here. Did I mess myself up? No. Okay, I'm trying to discern if this is a chicken or chicken egg or egg chicken situation. Do users actively choose specific brands, a Tesla over a TripAdvisor pill, for example, or if what they purchase is more related to supply and demand? I'd say the latter. To understand this, I turned to a 2009 research paper in the Journal of Psychoactive Drugs. What's in a label? Ecstasy sellers, perceptions of pill brands. Here, a team of researchers interviewed 8 ecstasy dealers, all of whom had sold at least 5 pills over a 6-month period. They were investigating the impact different pill brands had on the relationship. I never really could remember the names. They always seem so trivial. I mean, I've never met anyone who had like a request for a specific kind, or was like, oh, never mind, I don't want that. Lena A 20-year-old Caucasian ecstasy dealer from San Francisco says. The researchers were investigating the DEA's claims that major distributors package ecstasy with appealing logos in hopes of building brand loyalty, instilling confidence in the product, and ultimately promoting the use of the rug as fun and harmless. Man, ecstasy is so harmful. Even if you survive, it like rots your spinal column and you feel it immediately. Immediately. And that's just one use. You feel it within hours. It's crazy for anyone who's never tried it. Don't. Absolutely don't. And then it takes a long time to feel right again. And then there's people that are like microdosing on it often. So that's going to really cost you your health and your longevity. Understanding the branding of ecstasy has the power to relay messages not only about this particular rug market and its subculture, but also about our consumer conscious society as a whole. The researchers wrote, are ecstasy sellers predicting that particular brand names will tap into this material culture's ultimate desires? Or are these sellers simply products of the society themselves, utilizing the recognizable names by which they are surrounded? Consumer culture is evident in the branding that adorns many of the pills, and it could even be argued it's classist and lacking diversity. We get Rolexes, not Swatches, and Teslas instead of Fiats. The researchers came to the conclusion that dealers went for quality first, brand second, with many of their interviewees stating reluctance to get too heavily involved with particular labels. However, they did note that traction for some brands was extremely high. People buy out pink shaped heart with some kind of cool logo on it quicker than they'll buy a clear capsule with white powder that could be aspirin. It's white capsules, you know. Anyone could make those capsules, where pills are definitely manufactured. If I was in a club buying ecstasy, buying the pill with the cool logo, then you know that people are wearing t-shirts of that logo or some white capsule someone could have made in their basement. So I definitely think it makes a difference, John, a 26-year-old Caucasian male said. Wow. See, this I didn't know, that there's like t-shirts made with the pills on them, because people not in the know wouldn't recognize it as such, right? We would just think it was like a Tesla logo on a triangle or something, or on a diamond shape. We'd just be like, oh, it's a Tesla car shirt, because we're old fogies. In the end, if you're going to ingest Molly, MDMA, ecstasy, whatever you desire to call it, bear in mind Davidson's advice. Always test your pills yourself. That's a really good idea. I wouldn't know how to test them, but yeah, if you know how to test them or take them to somebody who does. If you are lucky enough to live in a country that does laboratory testing, make use of them and be as safe as you can. Oh, so we probably have that in America, laboratory testing for people that want to abuse rugs so that they will survive it. Let's see. That's the whole article. Okay. Anyway, I hope that wasn't too boring. If you're still here, Pamela and or Kelsey. And if you're not, that's all right. I totally understand. So yeah, I was thinking while I was reading, and I'm trying to keep my train of thought about a couple of things with Kylie Rodney's case. The mints, the I want to say the Bob Marley mints, the Bob Ross mints, right? That was a big thing in the beginning of the story. When she first disappeared, there was a tin from the Bob Ross Happy Trees, and then there was a lot of speculation that might have been code for having this type of product in that little box, in that little metal tin, kind of like an Altoids tin. Um, that would be a good way to disguise them. It's like, oh no, that's not rugs. That's just the Happy Tree Bob Ross mints. And then there was the Cards Against Humanity. And that was something that really stood out to me in the beginning, the Cards Against Humanity, because they were mentioned again and again, just like the Bob Ross Happy Tree mints were. And then it got totally forgotten about. And I think it's really important to go back to those things, because why were they mentioned so much in the beginning? I think because they're relevant. And then why have they been forgotten about? And to answer my own question, I think it's to obfuscate the truth. So, the Cards Against Humanity are not something that I knew anything about, despite the fact that my teenagers had a set. So when this case happened 2.5 years ago, when Kylie Rodney first went missing, and she had the Cards Against Humanity and she had the Bob Ross mints, I looked at their Cards Against Humanity and I threw them out because they're very vulgar. They're violent. They're inappropriate. It's exactly what the name sounds like, Cards Against Humanity. So why was that such a significant thing out at the Lord of the Flies party? It's curious, isn't it? Another thing that gets forgotten about with the Kylie Rodney case is that there was a lot of confusion about Boca versus Prosser. And I went over a theory that I have devised yesterday. I went over it in my live about what I think might have happened to Kylie. And I will reiterate that for anyone who doesn't want to search through that 2-hour live. I don't know if today will be shorter or longer. I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. Probably shorter would be my guess. So I hypothesize that Scammy was very jealous of Kylie and that she wanted to kick her butt. And I don't know if she tricked Mags and Kate into getting Kylie out there, or if they didn't need to be tricked. They were just willing to do what Scammy wanted. Because it really seems like she kind of controlled not just the kids in Truckee, but the adults too. It's like, if you didn't do what Scammy said, then your family was going to suffer, because her family was in control of all of the community resources financially. And we're talking billions of dollars. So we're talking like Tesla billions, 34 billion to be exact, of government contracts over a 10-year period from 2020 to 2030. And I always want to give Shan from Squirrels on Fire credit for discovering that, because that was a huge find. I had kind of figured that, and I knew that Scammy's parents had money. I knew they were in control of the Arts Council funds and the community scholarships and things like that. You had to go through the Smiths. Is it James and Cindy, I think, mommy and daddy, and they owned, probably still own, Sierra Investigations. It's like a private eye firm, securities, private eye. Anyway, you had to be good with the Smiths if you wanted to get scholarships for college, if you wanted to get an art scholarship to do like a mural or a sculpture or something like that, or maybe a performance. And I knew it to the tune of millions. I had no idea it was to the tune of billions. And that makes such a difference. And that really kind of filled in the gaps for me of exactly what was going on with this whole Kylie Rodney case, and why everybody was willing to lie for Scammy, and why she was such a freak out front center trying to control the narrative, right? So let's see, I'm kind of going a couple of different directions with this line of thought. The billions of dollars, the staying good with Scammy. and keeping it secret, and the story, my theory about how she was lured out there so Scammy could get into this quote unquote friendly fight with her, right? And basically rough her up for specifically probably jealousy around the two boys that they'd both been dating in the last year or so, Jägermeister and who I call Hamburglar. And if you don't know the Hamburglar, it's the H family. I'm not going to say their names because they are connected to YouTube. So Pamela says I am. So I'm glad that your toe is okay from decades ago. Wow. What happened to it? If you feel like sharing. But I'm glad that it recovered, that you recovered, that you still have your toe. So Kylie had allegedly been breaking up with Jägermeister off and on. They had dated, I think, for like a solid year, starting a couple of years before she disappeared. And then more recently, it was like on again, off again. Whereas Scammy had dated the Hamburglar kid briefly, and then they called it quits. And then Kylie might have been dating the Hamburglar kid, and she might have been hanging out with him that night, and she might have been breaking it off with him too. I don't know the specifics. I don't think anybody really knows the specifics other than the people whose names I'm mentioning. So my theory is that all three of those people were involved, as well as the other two females that I mentioned that helped coerce her to get there, with the cream brulee, and then the mags needing a ride, staying for 10 minutes, getting freaked out by the guys with the bong rips, and then leaving. The stories don't add up. They don't make sense. And then Elsa coming out of nowhere down the road saying, oh yeah, we saw her and she fell into the ditch and she said she didn't need help getting up, and that was that. So my theory is that the fight happened. Maybe Kylie got like pushed over a cliff or fell, not just in a ditch but worse. So if you fall down a cliff, you can easily lose your life or close to it. So that's my guess. And I only came up with this in the last couple of days, the part about falling off of a cliff. Maybe I've thought about it some off and on over the years, but I haven't really like plugged it in as a significant theory. And I also think that she might have been rugged. And I don't know if she would have experimented with something like this Tesla stuff, or if she might have inadvertently, somebody slipped it to her without her knowledge, or if she caved to peer pressure. I don't know, and I'm not judging if there was anything like that. I just have always thought that there was something that weakened her ability to protect herself, because she was a smart girl. Remember Scammy saying that? Oh, she was smart. She knew how to take care of herself. She was smart enough. A lot of jealousy there. A lot of jealousy, because she wasn't just smart, she was brilliant. She was like next level kind of, I'd say genius, not just with her music, but with her intellect as well. And you can see that really clearly. If I can find it, I'll put a link to Squirrels on Fire did a video several months back. She had found an article, maybe like a letter to the editor that Kylie had written to the newspaper or something, when she was like 11 years old, maybe 12 at the oldest. And it was like something a very well-educated adult would have written. It was around outlawing plastic bags in the state of California to protect marine wildlife. And it was very well written. Amazing that a kid that age would even be inspired to write something like that, let alone write it so well. Even if she had help editing it, which, it's neither here nor there as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, so that's just one example. All of the videos that we see of her singing, songs, playing instruments from a very young age. That's another example. I mean, that's highly skilled, especially at such young ages. But at any age, you have to be really gifted to do those types of things. So she had dropped that song, Far Away, on SoundCloud, the one that she recorded with Crepe. And I'll put a link to that in the description too for anybody who hasn't heard it or hasn't heard it in a while. Nico Mingo, nice to see you, my dear. Thanks for coming in. So yeah, I'm just kind of going over my formulated theory of what could have happened to Kylie that night. So when they got her to the party and got her inebriated or compromised, and then maybe the falling over the cliff was like an accident, and then it was like, oh crap, now what do? We just wanted to beat her up, and now she's really it's really gruesome, right? Anybody who saw anything really gruesome, go tell Sam Brown about it and he'll hook you up with some counseling. That was weird when he said that. Anybody who saw something really gruesome, if you saw something really gruesome, come talk to us. Flag yourself so we know who we need to keep an eye on. That was such a specific word for him to use, gruesome. It's like, oh, so something happened that was gruesome. And I was, at the time, I was thinking more like being violated. And I should say trigger warning for that retroactively and moving forward, that I've always assumed or formulated or theorized that she was injured and then she was violated. So there's all that confusion. I started to say this about Prosser and Boca. So what if this party happened at Prosser, it happened at the sanctuary, and that's where she really got injured more than was intended? But I don't know. It might have been a premeditated red rum for all I know. This is just a theory. And then they took her from Prosser to Boca because they didn't know what to do and they were trying to figure out what to do. And maybe they had her in the back of her own vehicle, you know, kind of fitting in with the whole story that's probably a lie from Nick G, the roadside assistance guy. But there's a lot about Boca that I think is relevant. I don't think Boca would keep coming up if it wasn't something that you could hang your hat on. And for those that really know the Kylie Rodney case well, there's a certain ranger that worked at the Boca campground, and they have like slips where people can pitch tents or put their campers. And I can't remember if it was like slip number 9 or slip number 6, somewhere in between 6 and 9, that something was happening at that site that was freaking this one ranger out. And she was sending emails to her supervisor like, this is so freaky. And eventually she quit her job. And there's been theories that maybe there was something going on in a trailer there, and that maybe Kylie was being held captive there and being assaulted. Slip 13. I thought it was a single digit. I could Google it. The Boca camping slot. Let's see. See if it comes up. Sometimes things come up. Boca campsite number Kylie Rodney. This is just for curiosity's sake. Kylie Rodney. I kind of doubt anything will come up. You never know. Yeah, I don't see anything about the slip number, but I can find it and put links in the description because yeah, the emails are fascinating. If you've never read those emails that ranger wrote, and like I said, they quit their job because of whatever was going on in that particular camping spot. And then when Nick G, because you got Nick R. Nick Wren was with AWP. Nick Giovanni, I think was his last name. The guy who kind of tracked down AWP in the parking lot of the store that I like to call Worst Buy Ever, but they call themselves Best Buy. And then he was talking with them outside of their rig, and that was videotaped. And he claimed that he serviced Kylie's vehicle and that he didn't realize it was the same girl until he saw a missing poster like a week later in a coffee shop. And then he was like, oh, gee whiz. And then he tried to report it and had to quit his job because his boss was being wily or cagey about it, saying, no, you never went on that call. No, that videotape doesn't exist. Anyway, so Nick's information for AWP made them interested in going to Boca because that's where he said he had this interaction with a male and a female and the vehicle the following day. Although he didn't really say it was the following day. He said that it could have been Friday or Saturday or Sunday, if I'm recalling right. Like he did not really nail it down. So if it was Friday and then this stuff didn't happen until Friday night, like August 5th, August 6th, if any of this is even true, we really don't know. But anyway, so AWP went to Boca first and they cleared that. And then I think they went to Donner Lake and cleared that. They might have even gone to Stampede before they were like, we really should make sure that Prosser is cleared, even though the authorities had told them it's already been cleared like 20 times. They have protocol that nothing is cleared until they clear it for themselves. So they went to Prosser the second day that they were there. So they first searched on a Saturday, I think it was, and then Sunday they searched and they found her car in like less than half an hour, right? And rather than anybody being relieved or grateful that they were able to recover her vehicle with allegedly her in it, they got nothing but grief and abuse and slander. Fred Field, darn, missed the start due to watching overnight true crime series. Nice to see you. Well, yeah, I saw your comments at the comment section from yesterday's video, and I thought they were really good. But now, since I didn't write them down, it's escaping me, and there was something that I wanted to address. So thanks for coming in, and how are you? And what was your comment? You had a couple of comments in yesterday's live, unless you deleted them. Let's see. And now all of a sudden my phone is being all slow. Maybe the internet is having issues. No, here it goes. Oh, the Tesla. Turn that down. And man, it really is slow, but it's doing its thing. Okay. And yeah, Fred said, don't expect you late. And bruises on mags too. So I don't remember the bruises on mags. Can you tell me? I believe you. And it's like, I almost have a vague recollection, but can you tell me what part of her the bruises were on? Because I was talking yesterday about the bruises on Scammy. She was covered in bruises. And so was Zanime. So when Zanime said that she took a tumble down a hill, that was what kind of curiously came up in my head a couple of days ago. And I thought, was she making up that story because Kylie took a tumble down a hill? So Fred said, I remember a Snapchat or Instagram video there. A girl in hard glasses was forcing another girl to drink when she wanted water. I think Kylie was rugged, forced to fight, gang ard and past of untreated injuries. Yeah, I think she might have not passed right away. I think she might have survived for a few days or maybe even a week. I don't know. Um, Now, so Snapchat or Instagram video. So the girl in the heart glasses, I'm sure, is scammy, but I don't think I caught that one. Forcing another girl to drink when she wanted water. So, like an alcohol drink. That's interesting because yeah, I saw a lot of those Instagram and Snapchat videos of scammy. Oh, she just makes me so sick. So very sick. Anyway, did I finish my whole theory of Kylie going out to Prosser, getting gravely injured, and then getting moved to Boca, and then eventually, they probably hid her vehicle with her in it in a garage. Oh, I wanted to readdress this too. A lot of this information we got from MC Ultra, who I don't think we can believe a single thing she says. I don't think we can believe a single thing anybody in this story says. But within the lies, I think some things are true, and the trick is knowing what parts are truth and what parts are false. But remember when MC Ultra sold this idea that these really creepy backwoods parties were like a trucky legacy that happened every summer for at least the last 30 years? She did that when she was in high school, and that the people before her did that was a thing. Every summer, the Truckee high school graduates would have their graduation party way after graduation. Like graduation was in June, and this particular party was in August. And it's like, oh, well, is a graduation party like a seeing off, saying goodbye to your favorite seniors kind of party? And we were all very suspicious of that. We were like, no, graduation parties happen like the night after graduation, like that same day, or maybe like the weekend before or the weekend after, not a month and a half after, 2 months after. That's not a graduation party. That's just a freaking party, right? So, and that's one of the ways lying liars tell on themselves, is that they say crap that is obviously BS. But I think we've all given MC Ultra too much leeway into thinking that a lot of what she shared was truth, when I think that almost all of what she shared was trying to pave the way for Scammy's lies to not be questioned. And one of the things that criminals do when they try to cover up a crime is whatever like weird behavior, weird activities that were going on that led up to the tragedy, they try to pretend that those behaviors and activities are normal. That's just like what we do every day. We have graduation parties every day of the summer, right? I mean, didn't they pretty much try to say that at one point? Anyway, so yeah, I doubt that adults allowed their kids to go to freaking drug fueled, alcohol induced parties in the woods. I mean, that's just the worst idea I've ever heard of. Worst idea I've ever heard of. Fred says, if I remember, Mags had bruises on her legs too. Interesting. So my theory is that maybe they went down the cliff to try to recover Kylie, not so much to help her, but to hide the evidence, and then decided to let her be abused more. I've always thought that Scammy turned her out, and I apologize for the idea, and I hope that I'm incorrect, but it just seems pretty likely because she's so disgusting. So let's see, if we've been going for almost an hour, and there's 6 of us all together, and only 3 likes. So 2 of you are holding out. If you want to hit the like or hit the no like, I won't try to control which way that thumb goes. but yeah, if you know, like, that's all right. I know things are just, you know, there's so much going on right now with the political scandals. It's hard for me to prioritize some of the true crime cases like Kylie Rodney, like Idaho 4, when there's, our democracy is being burned to the ground right in front of us. And I feel like it's imperative to pay attention, as horrifying and overwhelming as it is. When I pay close attention, I see a lot of things that give me hope. So that helps. I see a lot of pushback. I see a lot of failures of the big E and the little t and the PP. And I just got to say, there have got to be PP tapes. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, there's been rumors for years, if not decades, that PP and little t hung out long ago and were being perverted with some escorts, and they got peed on. Okay, I'll just say it. And that it's on videotape, and that these videotapes, maybe it's just a conspiracy theory, but excuse me, it's been going on for a long time. And there's a lot of people that believe that Putin has these videotapes, PP, and that's what he has over Donnie. So, I also think that PP wants, or Big E wants access to the Earth resources. He wants to mine in Russia. And that's where Donnie comes in. So Donnie's like the middleman between the Big E and the PP. And the Big E wants to mine in Russia, and the PP just wants to dominate the universe. So Donnie's like the middle management guy. He's like the escrow guy, right? He's trying to work with the Big E and work with the PP. And did you guys see the videotape that Zelensky put out yesterday addressing the drones and the bombing that have happened after the fact of PP stating that he'll cease fire? So he told little t that he would cease fire, and then attacked more and caused a lot of fatalities and mayhem, including 2 hospitals that were bombed, which that's war crimes. That's straight up war crimes. So, when our El Presidente tries to say that, PP's a good guy and that he trusts him, he's a freaking war criminal. He's evil. And for somebody to say that, they'd have to either be completely ignorant or just lying. I mean, make of it what you will, but I think he's both. I think he's an ignorant, lying sack of crap. And then trying to make out like Ukraine invited the invasion 3 years ago. I mean, come on. These people. And yeah, Ukraine has a lot of resources too, which is what they're trying to broker and gain access to. They don't want to leave Ukraine alone. And if Ukraine gets usurped by the country that's invaded them, there's going to be one after another. It's not going to stop with Ukraine. So Ukraine has to win, basically. They have to be protected, or PP's going to dominate our entire globe. Although there'll be, the world domination will be competitive with the Big E, the little t, and the PP. I mean, these guys are just crazy, and nothing is ever enough. And they all just have mommy daddy issues. They're all just literally small little men with no self-esteem. And there's nothing anybody can do to fix that. So dominating the world is not going to fix that. And all these people that continue to say, including the big E himself and the little t, that he's the richest man in the world. The more I hear that, the more I think it's a big fat lie. Like even before the crashing of the Tesla stock market, like, why would you keep saying that? Like, most people who have resources like that try to be a little modest about it, just because they have manners, but also because they don't want to be targeted. So it's a weird thing to say every day. If anybody forgot in the last 5 minutes, he's the richest man in the world. Give me a break. Give me a break. The one story is that after the rugging fight, the beatdown, SS arranged a fake trafficking, but trafficker decided to do it for real. Kylie fought it and they unalived her. Yeah, and a lot of times people can just go into shock, and it can be fatal just from being injured and assaulted. I mean, shock can cause death. Just shock itself can cause death, which is why that whole thing, going back to the Idaho 4, that whole frozen shock phase, that's why that could float at all, is because shock does weird things to people. But now, if we want to switch over to the Idaho 4 case, I don't know if you guys want to, but all of this information, this alleged information that's come out suddenly 2.5 years later, practically, all of the messages back and forth and all these receipts and all this crap. How do we believe any of it? We've been lied to for 2.5 years. I think it's just a mess. It's just a web of lies, in my opinion. I just can't. I can't. And I'm amazed that anybody can. I mean, I try to watch Jules of all trades because she does a good job of just kind of dry reading the documents. Like, yeah, she gives you her opinion, but mostly she's just giving you the documents. And in my opinion, too many people already have their minds made up of guilt and innocence of the criminal defendant and of the roommates. And I think most people have it backwards. I think those girls are guiltier than F. Let's just say that maybe the criminal defendant is guilty too, but those two girls are guiltier than F. Like, they are involved. They are absolutely 1000% involved, which the information that was newly released yesterday, I think, only cements that. But I don't know if that information is accurate or if some of that is just concocted, invented. I mean, there's so much weird stuff in the Idaho case. It's kind of like the Kylie Rodney case. I think that's why those two keep gnawing at me, really. Not confirmed like most of the case, but sounds real possibility. Hello, everyone, and Miss Jazz. Mrs. Amir, an hour late. You're good. You're good. Yeah, I'm kind of slowing down, but also if there's anything you guys want to talk about, we can talk about it before we wrap up. So just covering the, I read an article about the kind of the invention of these Tesla ecstasy pills, or not so much the invention, but just where they came from and how long they've been around, because I only learned about them a couple of days ago. And until yesterday, I thought that they were with the Tesla logo on them. I have pictures of them in my thumbnail from yesterday's video. I thought that they'd only been around for a couple of years, but I read this article at the beginning of this video that I think defines that they've been around since at least 2017, the Tesla ones in particular. But before the Tesla ones, I guess it was like Mitsubishi and Pink Panther and 007. What were some of the others? There was another one with that 007 that I thought was interesting. But I don't know if I don't know where it is in the information. It might be the page that fell to the floor. I bet it is. Yeah, Pink Panther and 007 are the two that they mentioned together. So I did remember them both. But then there was another one too. That was like the Mitsubishi and I don't know what else. Tesla. But it's interesting because the ecstasy, the Molly can have ketamine, cocaine, or not cocaine, maybe, but methamphetamine, ketamine, LSD, heroin. Isn't there one other substance that they talk about being in there? Let me see. I should be able to remember. It was only a few minutes ago that I read it. And yeah, they can also be cut with like baking soda and with rat poison. A little bit of rat poison won't kill you, but a lot of rat poison will. And as far as the baking soda goes, that's just to make more money because baking soda is cheap and that's not going to hurt you. So there's like Skype pills, Netflix pills, TripAdvisor pills. Those are some of the others. But what were the other substances that they have in them? Was that in here too? Or was that a different article that I read? Wait, no, I'm glad that I'm looking at this. It appears that Tesla pills first came onto the scene in 2015, doubled in popularity the following year. Facebook pills have been around since 2014, Snapchat since 2015, and Apple Macintosh pills emerged in the late 90s. Okay, so Tesla pills have been around since 2015. Interesting. I'm really glad I saw that. And yeah, I don't think it says in this article the other substances that they put in there. But, you know, people who use this stuff need to get it tested so that they know what they're taking and they know the amount that they're taking. And so I guess there's like Rolexes, Swatches, and Fiats also. Those are different brands that they mark the pills with. But yeah, I was surprised that that ecstasy can have heroin in it and that it can have meth and the one that Elon likes, the ketamine. I was very surprised. I did not know that ketamine had anything to do with ecstasy. So it's just curious. It's very curious. It's curious that he shares with people that he uses ketamine. You know, there's some interviews that he did with Don Lemon a couple of years ago that that Don just posted a couple of days ago. I think there's like 10 short videos, like maybe 5 or 10 minutes each. And I only watched a couple of them because honestly, I couldn't take it. It was repulsive. Don was asking him some hard-hitting questions, but only about things that Elon had already been public about, like his rug use and also his claim of Asperger's, or you know, being on the spectrum or being autistic. Personally, from observing the big E, I think it's a big lie. I think that he's just a loser. And I don't think people that are on the spectrum are losers, let me be clear. But I think that he's a loser and that he just tries to get a free pass to be as stupid as he wants to be and say, oh, well, you know, you can't hold it against me because it's like my little disability of autism or Asperger's or, you know, having those characteristics. Which is also interesting since little T likes to be so insulting that anybody who's not a white male with like everything perfect in their physiology and psychology is not worthy, right? Because his right hand man, his Mr. Moneybags, says that he's far from perfect. Although I think he is kind of selling himself as perfect with this quote unquote disability that, you can write off his weird hand motions during the inauguration day. That wasn't weird hand motions. That was just like a uncontrollable reflex from the Asperger's. I mean, come on. Have you seen Dr. Strangelove with Peter Sellers? Because I recently rewatched that and I'd forgotten about the part where the guy's arm is just like Elon's arm. It's like constantly wanting to shoot up and he can't control it. He's constantly trying to control his arm, and it's funny, like funny, not funny. It's a brilliant movie. And that movie was in the forefront of my imagination the entire first term of El Presidente. Like, I just always saw him as that character riding the napalm bomb, riding it like it was a horse, just in love with the napalm bomb. What's the whole name of the movie? Dr. Strangelove. It's got a really funny rest of the name about the love of the atomic bomb. I'll Google it. It's such an old movie now. Like, a lot of people have probably never heard of it, but man, it is a classic. Peter Sellers is brilliant. So it was 1964 comedy war, 1 hour, 35 minutes. In a nutshell, it's subversive, psychological, and cynical. And the director is Stanley Kubrick. So what's the whole name of it, though? How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. That's the whole name of it. It says here, Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. A mentally unstable American general orders a hydrogen bomb attack on the Soviet Union, triggering a path to global nuclear holocaust. That a war room full of politicians and generals frantically tries to stop. Paranoid Brigadier General Jack D. Ripper of the Burpelson Air Force Base believed that fluoridation of the American water supply is a Soviet plot to poison the U.S. populace, is able to deploy through a backdoor mechanism a nuclear attack on the Soviet Union without the knowledge of his superiors, including the chair of the Joint Chief of Staff, General Buck Turgidson, and President Merkin Muffley. Only Ripper knows the code to recall the B-52 bombers, and he has shut down communication in and out of Burpelson as a measure to protect this attack. Ripper's executive officer, RAF Group Captain Lionel Mandrake, on exchange from Britain, who is being held at Burpelson by Ripper, believes he knows the recall codes if he can only get a message to the outside world. Meanwhile, at the Pentagon War Room, key persons including Muffley, Turgidson, and nuclear scientist and advisor, a former Nazi named Dr. Strangelove, are discussing measures to stop the attack or mitigate its blow up into an all-out nuclear war with the Soviets. Against Turgidson's wishes, Muffley brings Soviet ambassador Alex D. Sadetsky into the war room and get his boss, Soviet Premier Dmitry Kizov, on the hotline to inform him of what's going on. The Americans in the war room are dismayed to learn that the Soviets have, as of yet, unannounced doomsday device to detonate if any of their key targets are hit. As Ripper, Mandrake, and those in the war room try and work the situation to their end goal, Major T.J. King Kong, one of the B-52 bomber pilots, is working his own agenda of deploying his bomb wherever he can. So wherever he can on enemy soil if he can't make it to his intended target. So that's one person's explanation of the movie. So there's a few others, but I won't read them all. I'll just leave it at that. It's really funny and not funny, and I highly recommend it. And when I watched it just a couple of months ago, I had seen it when I was very young. I've talked about it before. I've told you guys about it. I think my father took me to the movies to see it when I was like 8 or 10, and I was bored to death. I liked Peter Sellers. He was in the Pink Panther. He was in Alice B. Toklas. Remember that movie? I love you, Alice B. Toklas. Anyway, so I liked that actor, and my father, of course, wanted to see the movie. It's like black and white, and it's war crimes, not the kind of movie that a little girl is going to be interested in. But it was Peter Sellers, so it wasn't as it wasn't as distasteful as it could have been if it wasn't Peter Sellers, I guess. But as an adult, looking at it now, recently, the last few months, not only did I think how brilliant the movie is, but it's like it could have been made yesterday about today. Like, that's true brilliance. Like, that's Tracy Ullman too, you guys. I haven't talked about Tracy Ullman in a long time, have I? You guys know who she is? She's an amazing British comedian. She kind of discovered The Simpsons. So you may or may not know or remember that I went to college at Evergreen State College in Washington State, where Matt Groening, the creator of The Simpsons, also went. So I moved out there in the summer of 1987 to, I transferred from Miami University in Ohio. But that's besides the point. When I moved out there in the summer of 87, Matt Groening had just dropped out of school because his little cartoon, like his comic strip called Life in Hell with Matt Groening, My Life in Hell, had been picked up by Tracy Ullman to do like an in-color cartoon in her half-hour sitcom that was like 2 15-minute skits with a 2-minute break in between, basically. And so he did an in-color cartoon because his comic was like black and white, The Life in Hell with Matt Groening. And so he moved to LA to do that contract with the Tracy Ullman show, and the rest is history. I think it was 1990 when The Simpsons started its debut as regular half-hour show on its own. And it's the longest running show in history now. Has it been consistent for 35 years? Is that possible? Because I know up until it surpassed MASH was the longest running sitcom, which was 20 years. And maybe there's been one or two others that have competed with MASH. But anyway, where was I? Oh, so Tracy Ullman. She did a skit. She did a couple of skits a few years ago about the Melania bots. So I've been loving those, and I'll put links to them in the description. They're hilarious, and they're like, I think they're about 7 years old, but again, she's so brilliant. She could have made it yesterday and it's relevant today. She could have made it this morning and it's relevant today. I mean, it's just timeless. Like, that's the thing about pure genius. It's timeless, which brings me to something that I always want to say and I always forget, is like, the guy who refers to himself as a stable genius. It's like, are you serious? Like, how could you even put those words in a sentence about anybody unless you're kidding? Stable genius, but especially about yourself. And he's the furthest thing from either. And it just cracks me up. Stable freaking genius. Just keep saying it and maybe it'll be true. Keep saying it and, your cult followers will believe you, stable genius. Right? Let's see. Not confirmed like most of the case, but sounds like a real possibility. Oh, I thought somebody made a new comment, but I guess my eyes were just like fluttering or something. No new comments for how many minutes? 15? 16? 17. I can do math. Really, I can. So maybe I'll go ahead and sign off. It's an hour and 20 minutes. Nobody's commented in almost 20 minutes. So I love you guys. I'm always so happy to have a chat and catch up and tell you what I've been thinking about and what I've been watching. Yeah, I kind of started my channel like that. Like I felt like I was just sleuthing the internet, YouTube, for anything I could find about Kylie Rodney. And then it was like the things that I felt like weren't being said on other channels is the stuff that I felt like I needed to make a channel to share. But then I would kind of try to like give you guys the cliff notes of all the stuff that I had been taking in, because I don't want to be pretending that somebody else's idea was my own idea. I mean, to me, that's important. Even though it's kind of like a hive mind on the internet, I think it's still just rude to pretend that, to steal someone else's work, basically. And, it's fun to share ideas. It's fun to have your own thoughts. And, my heart breaks for people that don't have their own thoughts, but they don't have to pretend that they have their own thoughts. They can have other skills, right? Come on. Because there's a lot of that, not just on the internet, but just in general. I mean, how many people have experienced that at work, where a coworker or a supervisor took credit for your idea or your project or something? It's horrible, horrible, horrible. I honestly don't think I've ever done that. I mean, I can imagine that there's been times where I thought of something on YouTube that then I'll remember, oh no, I got that from so and so. I'll always try to clarify if I make a mistake. So, I'm not going to say I thought of this unless I thought of this. And it's entirely possible that more than one person is thinking of the same thing at the same time. So it's not immediately an implication that one person stole an idea from another if more than one comes up with it at the same time. But it's a terrible thing. And I know content creators try to not sweat about it, and others feel very protective of their life's work. And that's understandable, especially if you're depending on it for your income and then people are stealing it. So I told you guys yesterday, Hal Sparks is a channel that's kind of newer to me that I've been enjoying. And I haven't been watching him long enough to know, but it seems like he comes up with a lot of his own ideas that seem pretty funky and far out. I shared a couple of them with you yesterday. Like the one idea that's his, that the airplanes that were flown down to El Salvador full of the suspected Venezuelan gang members, that maybe those airplanes were empty and that those were just ghost flights. And that's why they didn't want to turn them around. They didn't want to get busted for pretending. But when you look at those videos of all of those prisoners, like, they're very frightening. They're very heartless. These guys all have their head shaved. They're all like the exact same height, the exact same weight, the exact same skin color, like light skin, but not white, but almost white. And then the guards, they all have like the black executioner hoods on with the little slits. And then the prisoners, they're all chained up. They're all wearing white t-shirts and white shorts. And they're like, they have their heads down all the time. Either the guards are pushing their heads down or they have their heads down. It's like they're told, like, if they look up, they'll get offed or something. But at first I was so horrified by those images. And then after hearing Hal Sparks come up with his crazy theory, I thought, yeah, it looks pretty staged, doesn't it? Like, they're trying to impress their MAGA people, like how powerful and heartless they are. I don't know. Either way, it's disgusting, but I would prefer that it's staged rather than that they're actually doing that to people. But if they're doing that to people, they are kidnapping people and they're not even like getting their names. They're not getting their histories. There's allegations that there have been people plucked out of their lives that have been suspected of being these gang members that aren't, that are the furthest thing from it. So that's something I think that we all need to remember, is it's not just gang members that they're targeting. They can target anybody they want, and they can just say, well, somebody thought you might have been a gang member. So, you're a suspected gang member. So therefore we had to abduct you and put you on an airplane and shave your head and chain you up and humiliate you and treat you like an animal. I mean, even worse than you'd treat an animal, right? It's horrifying. And no stable genius would do that. Like, you guys have got to see that Dr. Strangelove if you haven't seen it. It really says it all. So I'll put that in the description, and I'll also put those Tracy Ullman, Melania Bot videos in there. She's a freaking genius. Tracy Ullman is, if you don't know that actress. She's been around for a long time. I think she's still currently making stuff. She's like one of those people that is timeless and just does not age, or ages very well, like gets better with age. So I'll go ahead and sign off here. It's almost 3:30. What day is it? Is it Thursday? The 30th? No, the 20th of March. I'm looking at it. It says 3:20 and I say 30. See, those things happen sometimes when you're making your videos. That's why you got to be careful. Try to catch yourself when it comes out of your mouth. And then if you don't catch yourself, hope that somebody in your chat does. Like, you caught something for me the other day, Fred. Do you remember what it was, if you're still here? It was something really simple like that. Oh, it was you, or was it Mark? I think it was you, when I said that Interstate 70 goes through Truckee. And then I was talking about other interstates. And then in the comments you said, no, you said Interstate 70 goes through Truckee. It's Interstate 80 that goes through Truckee. It was you. Thank you. And when I read your comment, I'm like, I didn't say that, did I? And then the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, I think he's right. And then, of course, I always review the videos to see if I screwed anything up, or to make sure that all these things that I mentioned that I'll put in the description, that I get them all in there, because I'm just, flying by the seat of my pants. It's easy to forget one. So when I review it, I'm like, oh yeah, I got to stick that one in there too. So that's how my creative process goes. And what you did for me, Fred, was a huge favor, because then I don't have to like go in and find the timestamp and say, oh, I said Interstate 70, but I meant 80. So I totally appreciate that, sir. You really helped. And as I say, sir, let me just talk about Mary Trump. Do you guys watch her? I really like her. So she's a psychologist, and she's related to some famous person with the same last name. I forget who. She's a niece or something. So her granddad is that other famous person's dad, Fred Trump. And she's a very harsh critic of her uncle, for good reason. But she's also very down to earth, and I like the way she presents her material. She's very thorough and effective, and she talks about not another Sir story, because he always tells these stories about himself, and he's pretending that he's somebody else as he's telling the story, and he calls himself Sir, and they said, Sir, blah, 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 blah. And when I heard Mary Trump say that, like, oh, not another Sir story, I thought, that's hilarious. That's a good one. So I'll put a link to Mary Trump's video, to one of my favorite ones of her too, or one of her more recent ones. I watch her quite often. I discovered her a few months ago, and I think she's great. I think she's absolutely great. So another channel that I haven't talked about in a while that I want to mention real quick before I wrap is called The Bear Pantry Show. Have you guys heard of that? The content creator's name is Barbara, and her husband's name is Joe. And they're both content creators, and they've done different types of content over the years. It's called The Bear Pantry Show because they started with a like a cooking kind of thing, demonstration of cooking. But it's just kind of like a lifestyle channel. She talks about everything under the sun, and I really like her. So I'd like to encourage anybody to check her out. And like I've said before, and I said it yesterday, I'll say it again. There's so many great content creators. There's so many great ones. And there's so much crap on the internet. So, we all want to find good stuff. We don't want to waste our time with the crap, or we don't want to get tricked by the crap thinking that it's true and accurate when it's just like artificial intelligence or fake news or what have you. So that's why I like to share with you guys the stuff that I've been finding that I enjoy, because I really find it all very inspiring and very hopeful. And that's what I hope to do with my content, is be inspiring and hopeful. So on that, I will say peace be with you. Have a lovely rest of your afternoon. I've got puppy dogs that just came in. Hey, babies, what's up? Come here. Let's say bye to the people on the TV. Coco, come up. Come up. Come up, baby. Come here, Mookie. Oh, they're so cute. I think they're asking me to take them to the dog park. They're like, Mom, you said. It's a lot colder today than it was yesterday, though. But yeah, I think we'll probably do that. Peace out, you guys. Love and light. Thanks so much for watching, and take really good care of yourself. Drink your water. Try the yoga if you want. See you soon.